BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
This is tasty.
Welcome one, welcome all. I'm Andrew Petrie and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. Here once again with the final word on what could be a crucial weekend in the Premiership. And as the legendary Chick Young said,
this is tasty.
Marley Watkins with a strike! Marley Watkins with a goal!
How damaging will defeat at Rugby Park be for Rangers after Aberdeen went to Glasgow and drew with Celtic?
Shinnie, deflected goal! Equaliser for Aberdeen! Graham Shinnie!
And at the other end of the table...
Oh, it's a disaster! Oh, it's a goal! No! It's a goal! He scored! It's embarrassing defending from Hibs! Absolutely embarrassing!
Can David Gray turn things around as Hibs hit rock bottom?
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Well, I'm delighted to be joined by former Aberdeen and Celtic winger and current Morton man Niall McGinn and former Rangers Motherwell and Scotland striker Ross McCormack. Gents, how would you sum up the weekend's action? Niall, I'll let you go first.
I think exciting. I think obviously the big talk was Aberdeen coming down to Celtic Park and can they go there and make things awkward for Celtic, can get behind the ball, defend and obviously take their chances when they came along. So all in all, I think Aberdeen have to be delighted with how the weekend went. And then I'll probably, from today, Celtic probably have to be delighted coming away with a point as well.
And Ross, what about yourself?
I can only echo what Niall said there. You know, I've not seen it in years, a team going to Celtic Park, especially when you go 2-0 down, have the belief and the confidence to go and play and get back in the game and potentially go and win it. It was great to see it. It was a great advert for Scottish football. If you look at Kilmarnock today as well, Rangers didn't really have many chances, did they? They were pretty restricted. It wasn't a great game to watch, if I'm being honest. But Kilmarnock will be delighted with that. The one I was interested in was Hearts St Mirren. Hearts got a new manager, 4-0 win against a St Mirren team that are notoriously difficult to play against. So I think the new manager will be more than satisfied with that.
Well, we'll look at all of those games in a little bit more depth shortly. We're also going to hear from Hibs fan Colin Wilkinson a little later on. I'm sure he's got plenty to get off his chest. Niall, I've got to ask as well about the 0-0 draw for Morton away to Dunfermline on Saturday. You played a large chunk of that. What are your thoughts on it?
Difficult venue to go to. I think first half we have to be pleased with our performance. We had a few chances, they had a few chances. It's a difficult league, and I think it's one of those games, if you go ahead, then it probably becomes a comfortable afternoon. But I think the first goal is always important. And speaking sort of off air, I think when you get that stage in the game where Dunfermline came out in the second half, done very well, probably threw a lot at us, created chances. We defended brilliantly. Two centre halves were brilliantly. Gary Woods and goals was excellent as well. Came up with a couple of vital saves. So it's one of those ones that if you can't go win it, definitely don't lose it. So I think all in all we'll have to be happy with the point, and it just sort of maintains that good form we've been in over the course of probably the last couple of weeks.
Well, certainly a big season coming up for Morton. Right, without any further ado, let's batter through the latest Scottish football headlines. Rangers lost 1-0 to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park thanks to Marley Watkins' 87th minute winner. The result leaves them in third place, 6 points behind Celtic and Aberdeen, who drew 2-2 in a thrilling match in Glasgow on Saturday to maintain both sides' unbeaten records. Hibs sunk to bottom spot after conceding in the 99th minute to lose 3-2 away to Dundee United, while City rivals Hearts moved up to 11th after smashing St Mirren 4-0 at Tynecastle in new manager Neil Critchley's first game in charge. Dundee won 1-0 at Motherwell and St Johnstone beat Ross County 3-0 in Perth. And in the SWPL, Glasgow City have moved into top spot after they thumped Dundee United 13-0, while Rangers dropped to second after they drew 1-1 away to Hibs.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
We'll get to that tremendous match at Celtic Park shortly, but first let's start with Kilmarnock 1, Rangers 0. Ross, Rangers went into the match looking to close the gap between themselves and Celtic and Aberdeen, but instead they fell further behind. How damaging a result is this for Rangers and Philippe Clement?
Very damaging. I think if you look at the table as it stands, they're not only 6 points behind Celtic, they're also 6 behind Aberdeen. I watched the game today and it reminded me a little bit of the game away to Ross County towards the end of last season where they had to win and they just never really looked like doing anything. They didn't have a great deal of chances today. Neither did Kilmarnock, mind you, but it always looked as if one goal was going to win it, and Kilmarnock obviously went on and got it. But even after that, Rangers didn't even look as if they were going to get into it at all. It was quite disappointing. If I was a fan there today, I would have been I'd been a little bit gutted. I think the big players probably didn't show up. I was looking at Cherny, the right winger, who I think's really, really good player. Dessers is always good for a goal. He works hard and stuff, but I think that's probably the most disappointing thing, that they didn't really create too many chances. But yeah, to answer your question, it's a very damaging result. That it's a long way back now, even at this early stage.
And Ross has touched on kind of mentality a bit there, Niall. Tactically, where did you think it went wrong for Rangers today?
It's one of those games that you're coming to a tricky venue. You're playing against a well-drilled, organised Kilmarnock side where Derek has been so consistent and so good over the years of picking up results against the Rangers and the likes of Celtic. So first and foremost, it's just about going there, rolling the sleeves up. Sometimes maybe you have to fight fire with fire and maybe go to a 4-4-2. I think Dessers was probably a wee bit isolated in the sense where he probably needed a bit of help up front. They weren't creating chances. I know sort of towards the end of the game, he obviously pushes Tavernier up the right side of midfield and brings on another fullback. So it's probably just... once Kilmarnock go ahead, you're probably looking for a bit of an onslaught coming from Rangers of going and creating chances and bombarding their goal. And I think if you're looking even from a Celtic aspect, the Celtic has went there numerous occasions and maybe not been at their best, but they have a way of playing, they have a style where they'll still always create chances. And I find with Rangers now that they're probably, the manager probably doesn't even know his best 11, never mind sort of whether the players know how they are positioned on the pitch, what way they're playing. And even speaking of her, there was a wee instance in the first half where I seen the likes of Connor Bourne, he was coming out in that false fullback position, and sort of him and Tavernier were sort of getting probably mixed messages or mixed signals when to sort of move at the right times, etc. So if things like that aren't working on the pitch between players where you can sort of notice these wee things, it's going to definitely have an effect on their performances and outcomes of games, and you've seen that today.
And obviously the spotlight now will come on Philippe Clement. It feels like we're in a bit of a cycle with Rangers managers at the moment. Ross, how much pressure is he now under?
He's got to be under huge pressure. I mean, if you go back to the end of last season, they were favourites to win the league. They were ahead and they blew it. It's as simple as that. Start to the season hasn't been great. Okay, they're in the Europa League, but it's not been ideal. And again, picking up on what Niall said there, Celtic have got a set way of playing. They've got an identity. I don't see anything like that with Rangers. I mean, today they touched on it as well, pushing Tavernier one forward to right midfield. That doesn't suit him at all. Tavernier is much better when he's got grass in front of him coming onto the game, not when you give him the ball and he's got someone up his backside. It's a completely different position. So it just looks a little bit like when it's not going well, you know, the manager just wants to put square pegs in round holes.
And of course, we can't talk about this game without complimenting Kilmarnock. How many times have old firm sides and other sides now gone to Kilmarnock and left with nothing? Now, you know Derek McInnes well. What did you make of his approach to the game? And why is it so hard for teams to go to Rugby Park and not get anything from a Derek McInnes side?
Just sort of knowing him and obviously playing on his teams, he just goes into detail about every player, how they play as a system, their rotations, set pieces, everything is sort of attention to detail, second to none, and that's why he's obviously very consistent over the course of many years. But he's always recruited very well in the sense of he brought in players that know the league well. Even today, you've got an Armstrong and Matty Kennedy who know the league well. They're out and out good wingers that will create chances. You've got a Vassell, Marty Watkins, sort of strong runners, hold up play. So you know what you're coming to there with the likes of a Rangers. You know Vassell's going to hold the ball up, make it difficult. You've seen for obviously Marty Watkins' goal, how he uses his body and gets a wee nudge and shooter to obviously to score the goal. So they've a way, they've identity, even though we're talking about a way of playing. Obviously Rangers were probably, for me, I'm thinking, what is their identity? But you look at a Kilmarnock straight away and they have an identity, and that's why they're good at what to do. They're especially good at home, and I think with the European games over the course of the season, it's probably crept up on the likes of a Kilmarnock, St Mirren, etc. But now, coming off the back of Kilmarnock beating Dundee, I think now that they're going to gain a wee bit of momentum, and there's no better gaining momentum from a big result like today at Rangers.
From Rugby Park to Celtic Park, the Niall McGinn derby. Niall, how big a result was that for Aberdeen to come from 2-0 down, get the draw and almost go on and win as well?
Huge result. I think I think when you go 2-0 down to Celtic Park, you're probably thinking, nah, it's going to be 3-4. I've been involved in games, both sides. I've been involved in playing for Celtic, and when we beat Aberdeen 9-0, I've been involved at Aberdeen where we've went 3-1, 3-2 up, and Celtic came back and beat us 4-3. So you're thinking there when Celtic go 2-0 up, it's going to be a comfortable afternoon. But looking sort of from the outside in, watching the highlights, and I think it's clear that Aberdeen have a way of playing, they have a style where they say never die attitude. They've got very experienced players there. They've got players who can hurt you. And even looking at the bench for Aberdeen, I think when you have the likes of Duke can come on, Morris, sort of energy, players who can create chances, put their foot in the ball. And when you've got experienced players such as like a Graham Shinney, Jamie McGrath, who's playing at a high level of international football as well, and you've seen his 2 assists yesterday. So all in all, they have an identity, and when you've sort of gained that momentum over the course of probably the last 5-6 months, where they've went on a long unbeaten run, and you can see how clearly the manager's obviously dropped his messages onto the players, and they're all singing off the same hymn sheet. And as an ex-Aberdeen player, it was great to see them come back and get the point. And obviously growing up playing for Celtic and supporting Celtic, it was disappointing to see obviously Celtic losing, but I was sitting on the fence yesterday, so a draw was a good result for both teams.
Fantastic, Niall. And Ross, you've been in teams that have been tilting for championships. How does it affect the dressing room when you go and play a team who at the moment are your close rivals, you're maybe expected still to win, and you blow a 2-0 lead?
Listen, it can do. There's no doubt that it can do, but I think the boys in the Celtic dressing room are experienced enough to know. Niall said it earlier, if you're not going to win the game, then make sure you don't lose it. But for me, it was great to see. As I said earlier, as an advert for Scottish football, I mean, I've lived down south for a number of years and people turn their nose up at the Scottish game. It was an unbelievable match for the neutral to watch. Aberdeen coming back the way they did, I've not seen that happen for a number of years. Like Niall said, teams go 2-0 at Celtic Park and fold. You've seen it even with teams that play in the Champions League. They can't handle the atmosphere and the pressure in that stadium. So for Aberdeen to show that character and that steeliness to get back into the game and then nearly go on and win it says a lot for me for Aberdeen moving forward.
And now, how much of that character and that perseverance and resilience comes down to the new manager, Jimmy Tilleen? How impressed have you been with his start? And I suppose, did you expect, someone to come in and do so well at Aberdeen?
I think it was just a matter of time. If you're looking over the course of the last couple of seasons, there's been 3, 4, 5 nearly different managers. I think he speaks well, he comes across the media well, he's built a good sort of team around him, and you can tell that the players are playing for the manager first and foremost. They're turning up each and every day, working hard behind the scenes. I obviously know a few players there, so but you can tell on the pitch as well, even when they're not playing their best, that they're managing to get results, and that's always a sign of a good team. I was involved in an Aberdeen team where we were winning most weeks, and even when we didn't do well, we knew what players are who could create chances and come up with moments and win games, and that's what it's looking like at the moment from the outside in, that he's built a squad there that believes in themselves and believes they're unbeaten and believes that they can compete with the best, and that's obviously competing with the Celtic and Rangers. So I think looking from the outside in and sort of seeing the highlights from the Celtic and Aberdeen game, I think that game in itself can give them huge confidence coming from 2-0 down at Celtic Park over the course of the season. So they'll not be daunted with the expectations of going to Ibrox and the likes of a Tynecastle, that obviously go there and get results as well.
And Ross, I know we're only 8 games in, 30 games to go, but how seriously should Aberdeen be taken as title contenders? Does it look like they could split the Old Firm?
Well, that's 2 different questions you just asked me there. Title contenders, I'm not too sure, but in terms of splitting the Old Firm, why not? Why not? You've been crying out for this for a number of years. I think when I was at Motherwell, we finished 3rd in the league, and that was like, winning the league outside of the league sort of thing. But if someone could go and split the Old Firm, then it's great for the game. It gives everyone else belief that they can go and do it. And as I say, why not? I think, they've drew 1 game and won the rest. I think that was not to be disrespectful to the other teams in the league, but that was probably their biggest test yet, Aberdeen, and in my eyes, they passed it, especially with that second half performance. So they'll take a huge amount of confidence moving forward from that game. And, when teams are on winning runs and they've got that never say die attitude and they always believe that they can get something, then they're very dangerous. So it makes no difference to them now whether they're going to be playing Celtic or Rangers or anyone else. They now believe that they can go and win the game. So I think they should be taken seriously in terms of finishing second, but finishing first, I think Celtic are still head and shoulders above the rest.
Well, Ross, obviously you've played a lot in England. One name you might be familiar with is Neil Critchley. He's a name that Hearts fans have had to get a lot more familiar with. He's their new permanent boss, and he made the perfect start, beating St Mirren 4-0 in his first game in charge. His appointment wasn't met with universal acclaim, let's be honest, but were you impressed by the start he made in his first game?
You got to be. You know, St Mirren are notoriously hard to play against. Stephen Robinson teams, very well organised, know exactly what they're doing, they know how they play. And to go and turn them over 4-0 in your first game in charge, that's no easy feat. So it's a great start for him, but that's all it is a great start. In terms of his appointment wasn't met with, loads of applause and stuff like that, then all he can do is win games. I'm pretty sure if he wins the next 3-4 games in a row, then the fans will be right behind him. I've known him, not personally, but I've watched a few of his teams down south over the years. I think he was in at Liverpool as well. I'm sure he went to Aston Villa with Stevie Gerrard as well. So he's got a good pedigree in the game. Listen, he's won his first game in charge, 4-0. I think the important thing is getting some of them good players who the last manager couldn't get a tune of, get them singing from the same hymn sheet, and Hearts will be fine.
Niall, when a manager comes in and he's only had a couple of days training to look at his players and assess the team, and he comes in and gets a 4-0 win straight away, does that speak to maybe what was happening in the regime beforehand? Did the players just need a lift, or can a manager have that much of an impact in such a short space of time?
I think a bit of both. I think initially when he comes in only for a few days, it's probably him not tweaking too many things. It's just maybe giving players fresh ideas, maybe giving them that wee arm around the shoulder. I think there's a few players maybe worked with him before. Danda, I think's worked with him before. So it's sort of maybe the likes of him, who's obviously a technically very good player, giving him more confidence straight away. You've obviously got the likes of Shankland, Vargas.
Beningame for Vargas, who flicks Shankland on the return. It's Kenneth Vargas! A sumptuous Hearts goal!
The first goal was brilliant. The ball sort of in the Shankland, the wee reversal of the tap was nice with a great finish. So all in all, first few days in, new bright ideas is always good. But I think initially under any new manager, I think the record must be really high when a new manager takes charge, how often teams win games. So as Ross touched on earlier, St Mirren's always a tough nut to crack. They're always very well organised. They've picked up good results there in the last couple of years. So brilliant start for them, and obviously the Edinburgh Derby next weekend, which is going to be another big test, and it's one I'm looking forward to anyway.
Well, that was it. It was a good day for Hearts fans when the full-time whistle went at Tynecastle. It got even better when the full-time whistle went at Tannadice as Hibs blew a 2-1 lead to lose 3-2 in the 99th minute, meaning they dropped to the bottom of the table. Now, to find out a little bit more about the mood among the Easter Road faithful, I've been speaking to Colin Wilkinson of the Longbangers Podcast. Colin, a tough one for you this weekend. Talk me through your emotions during the game on Saturday. How are you feeling about the 84th minute, and how are you feeling in the 99th?
Oh, man. So, the 84th minute, pleased, obviously, delighted, because we're talking about going through this thing again. The next 5 games are crucial. This is a big game for us. We need to win it. And then we go and get ourselves in the lead. And then we get to injury time, and you just kind of need to lump balls in our box, and somebody's going to make a mistake. And that's it. And that's not just this season. That's been, well, at least 2 seasons. Last season and probably the season before. It's just late goals, soft middle, poor defending, all that. Different people, same goals.
And you said it's kind of been something that's been going on for years at Hibs. What's the kind of cause of it? Is it a mentality thing that, like I say, when it gets to that 85th minute, Jonio gets sent off, were you thinking, well, I know what's coming here?
Aye, so that's definitely the mentality in the fans, right? And we can't impact what's on the pitch, but that's definitely how the feeling goes. It's like, we're going to throw another one in here, we're going to let another one in, and you can hear it, the murmurs go around. I would say it's mentality. But then we change this team almost every year and we get the same results. So then it's different players. It should be a different mentality. But it's not. We go through the same cycle. We need a mass clear out. We have a mass clear out. We do the same things. None changes.
Well, that's it. What does need to change? Because, like you say, this has been going on for years. The mass clear-outs happen. I know Hibs have had an unbelievable number of transfers, even more than Chelsea in the last 2 years, who, of course, have become infamous for that. So what is it that needs to change if it's not the players?
I didn't know the Chelsea stat. So it's going to change again, right? We've got about another I can't remember. It's in the teens. Leave in the summer again, plus anybody else that we can move on. So I think the club are looking and saying, this is a holding season. If we can get in the top 6, we'll be happy. If we can get Europe, brilliant. Otherwise, next season we'll be able to bring a new set of players, new mentality, because we've got 12, 13, 14, whatever it is, in the last year of their contract, training with the reserves, or like away on another pitch basically every day. Because we have, and I think that's where the club are. It's like we need to clean that out. But I don't know, because we do have a new recruitment team, a new director of football, all that. I suppose we need to give them time to try and change stuff. Whereas, as I say, this has been, we'll get bodies in, Dwight Gale, like these kind of signings to get us through this year. And yeah, I think the expectations are now going to be, let's not get relegated, let's not be in the playoff, let's make sure we're comfortably in the bottom 6.
So what does that mean for David Gray's job and his tenure? Do you think he'll be given a little bit longer, given that, like you say, it might be considered a holding season? Or is there a case where, you've got to break the glass in case of emergency because you might be sliding one way?
Right, so what, 7 games, 8 games in? I don't think he's going to get sacked that early, right? I think there will be start noise for it, because that's what happens, and that's what happens on shows like this as well, right? But he's 7, 8 games in. We've got the new management team in, the new director of football who's there to, I suppose, protect him from this. I just can't see them sacking him this early. I think that the plan is longer term, and they maybe need to communicate that a bit better and say, like, obviously, right, it's not going to be easy because we're bottom of the league, right, and at the moment. But I think they've got to stick with him. We just can't keep sacking the managers. We've tried changing the big stuff up the top, and that's what we needed. It can't just keep sacking the manager. Let's change the stuff up there. We've changed it, but they can't change stuff overnight. So we need time for them to implement the new recruitment, the new stuff, and let David Gray try and do the best he can. But we can't just, if we sack him, it's not going to change anything.
And just looking at the short term, big game, huge game coming up against Hearts, who have obviously sacked their manager and then had a pretty good bounce at the weekend. As a result of that, how are you feeling going into the Edinburgh Derby?
Just the same as I always feel going into the Edinburgh Derby. I mean, it's... We could do a wee bit of luck turning your way in a derby, which we rarely get, but also just in general. Going into a derby as underdogs, usually not a bad thing. I say we're underdog, we're both horrendous. Like, we're both bottom of the league. It's goal difference they're above us on. Like, let's not get carried away. That was their first win since May or something. It's one win. I don't think they're that much better, but I struggle to be positive because it's just lob it a ball into the box and we'll score for you. That's what it feels like.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Colin Wilkinson of the Longbangers Podcast there. To round things off, there was a big win for St Johnstone at home to Ross County, and Dundee got their first Premiership victory in 6 with a 1-0 win over Motherwell at Fir Park. Two teams you both know well. Niall, how big a result is that for your old side Dundee, and do you expect them to pick up a bit of form now?
No, huge. I think, looking at the course of last season, how Tony Dock's built a good squad there. They're very resilient last year, scored goals and managed to keep clean sheets, which obviously works. If you keep clean sheets, you're going to win games. So I think Dundee was probably due a result. I think coming off the back of conceding so late against Kilmarnock, being comfortable in that game, going 2-0 up. And I think that's a sign of a good team, a good squad, when you sort of maybe lose a game like that at home, that you can bounce back, go to a tough venue, and Motherwell, who've been doing brilliant of late, to go there and obviously win 1-0, get a clean sheet. So no, it's just an interesting league when you're sort of, I'm still playing obviously, but when I'm going to check results, there's no sort of easy games in the league. The likes of obviously St Johnstone win comfortably at home and they end up, you're probably thinking Ross County doing well. Can they go there and maybe get a result in the sense of a draw maybe? But all in all, brilliant performance from Dundee to get the 1-0 win, and obviously Dundee United getting that 3-2 win over Hibs as well. So Dundee have been good sort of last season. They're probably just trying to get that consistency this season so far, but if they keep chipping away with wins, then there's no reason why they can't kick on.
Niall touched on Motherwell's fantastic form of late. They've won 6 of their last 8 in all competitions. Ross, what have you made of your old side this season?
I think they've been fantastic. Really, really good to watch. Really easy on the eye. And you got to remember as well, they lost a couple of their big players in the summer. Spittle went to obviously Hearts. The main striker left as well. So It wasn't an easy summer for them, but Motherwell seem to do that year on year, just rebuild silently, just go about their business, and they always do really well. It'll be interesting to see. Now, I don't want to wish this season away, but from a Motherwell point of view, if they can finish well this season, I believe they're going to have quite a lot of money to spend next year in terms of, because I think there's going to be a few right big bids for Lennon Miller coming in, so they could have a bit of money to spend to go and rebuild that squad and go again. But like you said, 6 wins out of 8, that's unbelievable for anyone outside the Old Firm. So you've got to applaud that. But I don't think the manager will be happy with that. He'll probably be thinking to himself, losing at home to Dundee is not great. But he'll accept it and move on. But I expect them to challenge top 6 anyway, I think, this year for sure.
And you touched on it there. We've ranted and raved about Lennon Miller on this podcast. I've done it myself plenty of times. Ross, you made the move down south. How soon do you reckon he'll go down, and how well do you reckon he'll do down there?
I think it's down to what club he goes to and what manager he works under. He's got to pick that very carefully, because if he goes somewhere who are not notoriously big on, throwing the young boys in, or a manager who likes more experienced players, then, he could struggle and he could sort of not fall by the wayside, but do you know what I mean? It'll be hard to then, he'll probably have to then, take 1 or 2 steps down to go again. But if he goes somewhere, that play good football, the manager believes in young kids, and he'll probably have, 100 Motherwell appearances under his belt by then, or whatever it may be, however many goals, Scotland under 21s. I've seen he scored a couple for them this season already. He's just a great talent, and it's great to see in Scottish football, because, as I said earlier on the podcast, I've lived down south for a number of years, and the amount of people that turn their nose up at the Scottish game is ridiculous, considering how many players have come from Scotland and go to England and do well. And also on the flip side of that, how many players have come up from England and not done anything in Scotland? So it's not an easy league to play in, especially as an 18-year-old coming into the centre of midfield for someone outside the Old Firm and more or less running the show in nearly every game. So it's great to see. As I said, I did expect Motherwell to keep a hold of him this summer, but next summer I think could be a completely different kettle of fish. I think they're going to struggle.
Well, time to wrap things up, but many thanks to Ross McCormack, Niall McGinn and Colin Wilkinson, and thank you for listening. Remember, we'll be here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning, so to make sure you don't miss out, just subscribe on BBC Sounds or wherever you listen. Another weekend of high drama comes to an end after commentating on Dundee United against Hibs. I'm off to a silent retreat to rest my voice for next weekend. See you then. Goodbye.
Burson comes. He doesn't gather. Meshak's there! He's done it!
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer. But then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me?
This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.